Hello everyone, new video about the Kobolds review, and this time the number 4 already, where we are taking a look at all the cards that are revealed so far this week. We have almost 20 cards to review today, so there has been a lot of more information about the new set. And the first one I want to take a look at is the new legendary from the Paladin. It is a Lynessa, the Paladin legendary of the set. It's a 7 mana 1/1 battle cry. Cast each spell you cast on your minions this game on this one. So, really interesting concept of the card. It is a card that looks at the first point, because you really look at the stats, kinda weak. But I think you should not underrate this card, because if you just already can connect one spell, it's already pretty good. So every time you cast like a Spike or Steed and you are able to connect it during the game, and Lynessa can already take that on her, it can already be a really promising Paladin legendary. Maybe if you do it like with 1 or 2 Blessing of Kings, maybe some other spells can really find some additional play. But I definitely think that Spike or Steed is one of the legendary, or one of the cards that can make Lynessa already really great. Might add up to like a little bit of a different Paladin spell, where our Paladin archetype, where you can really focus on more spells. Still think it's not gonna find enough play. I think removals are gonna wreck this card too hard. The silences, I mean, there are not maybe too many silences in the game, but it really wrecks this card. You need quite some setup for the card, so on itself, I don't think it is good enough. Maybe if you can make it in like a Paladin, in a Paladin spell with the quest, maybe with Galvador, it can work. Also, another good thing to realize is it is actually a Shaman nerf, a really big Shaman nerf, because all the evolves are now making, instead of like, there was already a 6 mana 1/1, well, there is also a 7 mana 1/1 now. So Shaman might not be too happy seeing this card. But yeah, overall, it has some potential, but currently I will not rate it good enough. Call to Arms, so another Paladin card, and this one is really more interesting, and I think potential pretty good. 4 mana spell, Call to Arms, recruit 3 minions that cost 2 or less. So what does that actually mean? Well, you can now recruit 2 minions out of your deck that are costing 2 or less. If you just think about it, that for 4 mana you can already summon 3 2-drops, it's already quite promising. But if you now can already think about it, you can make your deck around it and play just really good stat 2-drops. That card is actually really promising. If you play this in a control Paladin and you just play double Dirty Red and maybe Doomsayers, maybe some other 2-drops, the card actually becomes really reasonable, because it gains so much stats for what you do. Maybe this is the card, guys, that Millhouse needed. Let's say you play this at turn 4 and you just have Millhouse and double Dirty Red. Turn 4 you just summon 2 Dirty Reds and a Millhouse Mana Storm. Or in Wild you have the Shielded Minibots. You have probably some other 2-drops that stat-wise are really good and gain you a lot of additional value. So I actually think this is a card that's really... I think this card is really powerful. If it will see play, it's a little bit like, can it fit into the right Paladin decks? But... yeah, recruit 3 minions that cost 2 or less. What you're gonna do in your deck is you don't play a single 1-drop in your Paladin deck. You play only 2-drops, and you play like 2-drops with Death Rattle. You play 2-drops with high stats like Dirty Red. And maybe some additional ones. Maybe additional draw cards even. Like, if you get like 2 Dirty Reds and a Loot Hoarder, you probably want to, because you sometimes can also draw your 2-drops, and if you draw like a Millhouse, it's actually really bad. So I don't know if it's gonna really work out, but with just Dirty Reds around in Arena, this card will see a lot of play. I think it's amazing with considerable how good 2-drops are in Arena. I think this one is really promising. I think it's a good card. The Spellstone card for Paladin also has been revealed. What is summon a 2/2 Spirit with Taunt. So you summon a Grunt. For 2 mana you are able to summon a 2/2 with Taunt. What is for 2 mana maybe not as good enough. By upgrading it, it becomes a 4/4 with Taunt. And by upgrading it another time, it becomes a 2 mana 6/6 with Taunt. That's pretty alright. And 2 mana 4/4 taunt, 2 mana 6/6. That makes the card better. Because otherwise it was really weak to AoE if it would be like stacking in more 2/2s. I like this upgrade more. I think this upgrade is better. Like a 2 mana 6/6 with taunt can be really good in the late game. Especially if you combine it with heal. So it's a little bit hard to really evaluate the spellstones for me. But Paladin has a really good ways of healing. If they want to run cards like Spellstone, I am just not sure. But it's definitely promising to stack it up, make a 4/4 taunt or make a 6/6 taunt. For 2 mana it's not so good maybe, but to make a 2/2, but a 4/4 and a 6/6 sounds really promising to me. I think it's a pretty good card. I think it can see play, but it's not really a card that I see Paladin really helping. Like, Paladin is not really such a board oriented that it helps like having a 4/4 or a 6/6. So that makes me a little worried. We'll see how good it can be. I think this card is more depending on how good Paladin will be than how good the card will be on itself. And it probably is more of a like tech choice in control Paladin decks than a card on itself. Explosive Runes is a new secret revealed for the mage. Explosive Runes being after your opponent plays a minion, deal 6 damage to it and execute an access to their hero. So what the secret basically does is for every it actually has some good synergy because of a lot of the mage secrets you want to play your weakest minion first. Well, if you now play your weakest minion first, let's say an 1/1, you actually deal 5 damage in your opponent's face. And that's kind of interesting. It might be bringing a little bit more of a tempo mage archetype back in the game that really wants to play secrets but lose a lot of tempo for secrets. This secret is not really tempo losing. It might be good to also have a little bit more of a secret mechanic going on because it is a little bit too obvious. Like, yeah, it might be a Myro entity or the clone, so we just play the weakest minion first. Well, against this one you sometimes kinda don't want to play the weakest one first. So what the secret does is you damage the minion, you probably kill the minion, and if there's any leftover damage it goes in the face. More of an aggressive one. So yeah, interesting. It definitely is nice to have a secret that is a little bit more for an other archetype, and I think it can be considered to be a tempo mage secret because it's just more aggressive but still doing a pretty good job. One of the sleeper cards maybe that has been revealed so far, or like every time these smaller elementals get revealed, but one of the elemental we shall definitely not really underrate. It is the Arcane Artificer, the 1 mana 1/2 elemental, so just 1 mana. Whenever you cast a spell, gain armor equal to its cost. And by it just being a 1 mana card, you cannot ask too much of it. But the potential of when you cast this and you gain armor to a cost of a spell is pretty powerful. If you want to have like there are 2 problems with elemental decks. One is like really the tempo swing. Elementals are a lot of value but really slow. And elementals are not having like any defensive tools sometimes in life gain. They have it with taunt but not in life gain. So if you play this and you just play already an Arcane Intellect, or you just play and Fireball, you play a Polymorph, you play a Fireland Spodal, Flame Strike, there's actually a lot of big armor gain that you can get. I don't think it's a card necessarily for an older mage decks, but maybe an Elemental Mage, maybe a Jaina Mage. Nah, not really Jaina Mage. I definitely think like a more Elemental based mage might see some potential in this card. The card on itself is just so cheap. A 1 mana 1/2 is already pretty decent, guys. So it's not on this card if the card will not be played. It is about like there is just no deck where this card is good in. The card on itself is fine and it has really big potential for a 1-drop. Not many 1-drops have such big defensive potential as this one. It's just like, will Elemental Mage be a thing? Will maybe Exodia Mage play this card because it is full of spells? The card just needs to fit in a mage deck, and that is the big question for this card. Alright, and one of the crazy cards revealed. The card, this set really has some crazy cards. I'm super hyped about it, and this is a really insane priest card. Psychic Scream, 7 mana priest card. Shuffle all minions in your opponent's deck. Wow. Wow, if Priest already didn't have big enough removal cards, guys, here's another one. It really reminds me on the Light Bomb. It reminds me a little bit on Twisting Nether. But I just think the card is even better. Like, it is a guaranteed shuffle of all minions that are on the board. And they all go in your opponent's deck. And that's really good. That's really, really good. It's so consistent removal. It's even better removal than Dragonfire Potion. The only thing where Dragonfire Potion is better is in maybe Dragon decks, because it doesn't remove your own cards. But in like a Highlander Priest, what is like a tier 1 deck, this card is insane. Often the deck falls behind, often the deck plays a lot of random draw cards or pretty bad cards for your opponent. So you really don't care about giving these cards to your opponent. It probably makes your opponent's deck weaker. And another great thing is it is also a really counter mechanic to some other decks. It's a counter mechanic to Jades. Because suddenly you can like put some random bad Jades in your opponent's deck. It's a counter to Living Mana. Because you put Living Mana tokens in their deck and they lose all their mana crystals. It's a counter to like the Spreading Plague that has a lot of 1/5 taunts. Well, there you go, let's put them in the deck. It's a big counter to really big cards also, of course, by just putting that back in the deck. So this card is so good, it's so consistent, it's good in almost every matchup, aggro matchups or control matchups with even higher potential, and I think it makes the average deck of your opponent weaker by putting random of your cards and also your opponent's cards back in the deck. I think it's a really good deck. I think it's a really, really strong deck. Maybe even it can even like... There is one bad matchup for Priest, and I still think it's gonna be a bad matchup, the Quest Mage. But even this card can make some really big potential against Quest Mage, because you can give them a lot of rubbish, and maybe they don't find the combo. So great potential card. Alright, and now we are going into the Rogue, and we're gonna take a little bit better look at what a Rogue is all gonna get in this set. And the legendary of the Rogue has been revealed. It is Sonya Shadowdancer. 3 mana 2/2, Sonya Shadowdancer. After a friendly minion died, add a 1/1 copy to your hand. It costs 1. Really cool card. Hard card to evaluate. It really reminds me a little bit on the Shadowcaster that we already has as a 5 mana card that copies a minion and also adds a 1/1. This one has a little bit better potential because of it it can even create more than just 1/1s. The only thing is it might be a little bit harder to set up because a minion has to die and then you add a 1/1 copy to your hand, and does that always work with the combos you want to do? But a really cool card. There are some really nice synergies in Rogue already existing. You have the Fireplant Slayers, the Bone Mares, Shaku, Prince 2. It's a great value. It's a great card that can maybe really work well if you have Prince Calicut at 2. You play this at 3 after you trade Prince 2 in and you get another one. So some great combos already there. But also maybe like a Jade Rogue can benefit from here a little bit. Getting some specific Jade cards back. Also just already the basic things from an Rogue to get an SI back. What is also something you do a lot with. Shadowcaster can already be great. Every card that works great with Shadowcaster and Shadow Step is a consideration for this card too. So yeah, it's a cool card. It's a nice card. It's a cool design. It's a little bit slow maybe for 3 mana as a 2/2, but it has definitely great potential. And I like the design. I think it's a design that it's just really awesome. There's just one problem that it doesn't really solve for like the Jade Rogue, what is like more card drawing mechanic. So that worries me a little bit. But I love the card. It's more of a new mechanic in the way. We had never had like a Cult Master effect of like adding 1/1s to your hand or cards from the board. So yeah, if you can like do this on 2 cards, maybe even on your Edwin, and you can bring another big Edwin on the board, it definitely has great potential, this card. Really looks cool. Next card is another Rogue card, and I think really one of the best cards revealed so far. And I already say that here. And why do I say that? 4 mana 4/4 is not so specifically insane maybe, but there is an if there is a slot for Rogue that is really weak, it is the 4 mana slot. I feel the 4 mana slot, when Rogue decks are considering to play Prince Valanar at 4, it means that you have no good 4-drops. And shuffle 3 ambushes into your deck. When drawn, summon a 4/4 spider. And Rogue is a deck that can cycle really well. And if you now have a 4 mana 4/4 card that shuffles 3 spiders in your deck, maybe you can even copy this card with the Shadowcaster, guys. Don't forget mechanics like that. You play it again, you shuffle 3 more spiders in the deck. When you draw the spider, you summon, it just goes directly on your board. So if you will, like, you will have these lucky games where you play this and the next turn you draw it and you have directly a 4/4 on the board. Insane. You can make the Rogue decks that cycle a lot with the Gadget Sand. It's an amazing card. It really reminds me of the Ambush card. But the problem with the Ambush card was it summoned a 4/4 for your opponent, or it also summoned a 4/4 but your opponent had to draw it. And it was a really big tempo lose. The reason why the Ambush card was never really played, besides being a counter to Reno decks, was because of the tempo lose of the card. But this card doesn't lose you tempo. It's a 4 mana 4/4. And you can play with the card. It's not that your opponent is gonna play around the card. No, you just wanna draw the spiders. And that's really easy for Rogue. Like, Rogue has so many good draw mechanics. Rogue has so many good cycle mechanics. Rogue will make this card work. It's an insanely good card for Rogue. I am a little bit card because I think it's not a great fun card to play against. You will have these lucky games where you're like, oh, my opponent drew already 2 ambushes in their top 5 cards. So it's a little bit of a card you are not going to be maybe too happy with. It's going to be a meta card, but this will become a meta card. It's a really good Rogue card. The 4 slot, as I said, is a weak slot. And it just fits in almost every Rogue deck. Every Rogue deck cycles, every Rogue deck draws, and every Rogue deck likes to have stats for 4 mana 16/16, don't they? So we'll see card. We'll see a lot of play this card. Up next, it is Grumble. Grumble the Worldshaker. 6 mana 7/7. We know the 7/7 stat quite well in Shaman. Battle Cry. Return your other minions to your hand. They cost 1. Wow. Wow, wow. Pretty good card. It's a card that can probably work in a lot of different Shaman decks. But I definitely have the Elemental Shaman in my mind. And I think the effect is great. And not just the effect, but just the card. 6 mana 7/7. There is no way that this card is going to be bad, because it's a 6 mana 7/7. It's not like a 6 mana 4/4 like all the other Shaman legendaries that lately have been revealed. But a 6 mana 7/7, like, let's say that the game just doesn't go in the way that you want to make this mechanic work. It's still a 6 mana 7/7, and there is no way that's bad. So that already has potential, but now let's take a look at the mechanic. Return your other minions to your hand, they cost 1. And that's a really sick mechanic, because a Shaman can definitely be playing like some Battle Cries, some draws, needing some extra value. And this card can give you some extra value. And there are also some really great cards in Shaman that can bring even better mechanics back. If you do this with Elementals, Kalimos comes in my mind. If you just bring like 1 Kalimos back to your hand and it costs 1, it's like insane. So, and also with Jades. Bring back your Aya, bring back your Jade Spirit, bring back your Jade Chieftain. In Jade decks it has great potential. I'm not sure if it has great potential in like Evolved Shaman decks, on that I'm not so sure. But in Jade Shaman, Elemental Shaman, it has... I definitely think it will see play there, because the card is so sick on itself. And yeah, just the card overall, like 6 mana 7/7, it is also an Elemental itself, but it also helps. So I think it's a really good Shaman legendary. Yeah, I am not sure. It's a card that you can also overrate a little bit, because there are some more value cards in the Shaman. But I definitely think for Elemental and Jade Shaman, it's it's gonna be a good card. And you can also make it work like with cards like Double Gangster, but I think these mechanics are a little too ambitious and will often not gonna work. But yeah, definitely with Troll, you have some great mechanics too, that they cost 1, you play them on the board, and you can evolve them too. So, but you definitely want to play more Death Rattle and Battle Cry, mainly Death Rattle and Battle Cry minions with this. It's a good card. It's a good card. Kobold Hermit. Kobold Hermit. So, we got quite some new Shaman cards revealed, and this is one of them. 2 mana Shaman card, 2 mana 1/1, Kobold Hermit, Battle Cry, choose a basic tome and summon it. So, it's just basically for the same cost as you normally can do your totem. You can now choose your totem for 2 mana. And you can, you have a 1/1 with it too. It's, it has potential in like a totem shaman deck. And it's nice that you can like really choose your totem. So, if you need a taunt, you go for the taunt. If you need the spell, you need the spell. It definitely is going to need some support, but it can definitely already work really well because it also it makes more totems get on the board, so you have better ways to get your flame totem going. Maybe you already stack like your thing from below with it. Reminds me a little bit on like the Tuskar, so but the way of like that you can choose your basic totem has the biggest potential that you directly summon. We will also see more totem cards if I go to the next shaman cards, and it feels like there is some more potential for a totem shaman deck again, and if that becomes a thing, well then maybe we can make a really powerful totem shaman deck work again. There are cards like the Primal Fusion that have some potential work, and the consistency of that you can choose might maybe make it good enough to run. And the card that I was talking about was this one, the Windshear Stormcaller. 5 mana 4/5, Battle Cry. If you control all 4 basic totems, summon Alakir the Windlord. So, yeah, a 5 mana 4/5 is not the greatest thing, but why you want to play this card is of course to have 4 basic totems on the board. And in that way, maybe the other card that we just took a look at, it can make it work. Oh, 5/5. 5 mana 5/5, sorry. If you can control all 4 basic totems. So what you're definitely looking for is to make as much totems as possible. Maybe even return totems to your hand. And then play them again to get like the sick combos going. Because definitely now you want to have some totems in your hand to have like a swing turn. Working towards a mechanic, and then, because if you can make this card work, and summoning an Alakir is really powerful. So it definitely is a better win condition card for the shaman to make a totem shaman work. Because it really needed some big win condition. And the Stormcaller is definitely adding that win condition. The last card that really fits in this set is the Primal Talismans. Give your minions Death Rattle, summon a random basic totem. And that's what I mean. Like, it gives you even better potential that your totems don't get wiped away, that there is something left on the board, and that you get another basic random or like another random basic totem. Maybe even with because we already have also the 4 mana card that works really well with all the basic with the really cheap totems card that summons a random totem if you play a spell. This card I don't think is so great on itself, so I think you really want to play it in like, it can only find play in some really heavy totem shaman decks. But I'm not counting it directly out. I think this one of the 3 has like the not so much potential. But maybe the whole package together might make it good enough. And maybe Totem Shaman is gonna be a thing. I already rate Totem Shaman higher than Freeze Shaman. I'm happy to not see more Freeze Shaman cards. I like Totem Shaman. It has been a deck that people have been looking around before Aggro Shaman was a thing. So I definitely think Totem Shaman has some potential. And I hope it's gonna be a thing, and I'm definitely gonna try it out. Maybe we will see even more, because we don't have all the cards for Shaman yet. And maybe there will be 1 or 2 more cards that are also supportive to this archetype. Alright, and next up is a Warlock. And Warlock is a class that we definitely gonna take some good time for to talk about. Warlock didn't have much cards, only had the legendary revealed, what was like a little bit of a meme legendary in a way of insane stack mechanic and then destroy your opponent's deck. Now we are really getting into the interesting part, and the first one is the Voidlord. 9 mana 3/9, Death Rattle, summon 3 1/3 demons with taunt. And as a control Warlock main, I'm excited about this card. The card on itself is kinda not so great, but this card has great potential in Warlock decks. It has great potential in the Cruel Zakus Warlock deck that I've been running quite some. It has, if you can get this card just on the board, and you can follow this card up by Gul'dan, your opponent is wrecked, guys. Your opponent is just wrecked. He first has to deal with a 9 mana 3/9 taunt, and then there are 3 Voidwalkers, well, demons, but as Voidwalkers that's coming on the board. And you shall not underrate this card. It is kind of like an Obsidian that we already have in Priest for the Warlock. And yeah, if this card would not have taunt, nobody would play this card. But this card has taunt. And that is the great potential. And it has even Death Rattles with taunt. This card is so sticky. It is really comparable to the Obsidian. It's comparable to Sludge Belgier. And this is really good in Warlock. That has already a lot of removal. You shall not underestimate this card. You shall not pass this card, because it's really hard to pass this card. And with the Death Knight synergy, with it being a demon, and with the synergy that it has with Cruel and Blood Reaver Gul'dan, with the synergy of the Bane of Doom, maybe even, because Bane of Doom also get an insane bigger value with this card. This card is really good. It is a good card. It is a good card. I don't think it's gonna be good enough for N'Zoth, because I just think that archetype is a little too fancy in Warlock. Yes, it is weak to silence and some removal cards maybe, but just that it has already the Death Rattle of 1/3s, guys. It is a really high potential card, and I'm gonna play so much with this card. I will make this card work, I promise you. And also looking a little bit more into the Warlock cards, we got a completely different card here. Cataclysm, 4 mana. As Warlock already didn't have enough removal with Hellfires, Twisting Nethers, Abyssal, and what also more Devour. 4 mana, destroy all minions, discard your head! Hey! Let's get some more discard mechanics in. To be honest, this is not a real discard card, because it is a way more consistent discard card. It's just like it's like a Deathwing. Of like, it discards your whole hand, you know exactly what it is gonna do. So it's a little bit of a different discard card, and I think the card is bad, but it has one big potential. It has one big potential. Quest Warlock. I'm not sure if it's gonna be a thing, but if you play Quest Warlock and you play this, you can play it at turn 4 and you directly complete the quest. You can tap at turn 2, you can tap at turn 3. You have like 6 or 7 cards in your hand. You play this at turn 4, and of course you already played the quest at turn 1. You directly complete the quest, and you remove the whole board. Nothing is left on the board, and suddenly you play your quest at turn 5. And the Warlock quest is a high value quest, so maybe Quest Warlock can be a thing. Because this card always completes your quest at turn 4 and always makes the board empty at turn 4. So it's definitely a really good card for Quest Warlock in that way. If it's gonna be a real thing, because it really destroys the whole board, it has potential. If it will not do that, I will not rate it that high. But because it always completes your quest at turn 4, you always remove everything on the board turn 4, and you can play your quest at turn 5. I see potential in the card, but that's like, I don't think it's gonna be good enough in like an I don't know if in this card deck is really gonna play such a card that, like, you really need to have the Malkazar's Imp to make this card work then. Next up, Spellstone. A Spellstone card for the Warlock. Lifesteal, deal 3 damage to a minion. This lifesteal's up to, if I am correctly, 5. Yes. Deal 5 damage to a minion, and lifesteal, deal 7 damage to a minion. So it's kind of like a Drain Soul effect for 4 mana, where it first deals 3, heal 3, 4, and then it can stack up pretty easily for Warlock, because Warlock has some nice way to upgrade and take damage itself. We will also see some cards, more guys, that I'm gonna show you afterwards that work great with this card. That can do it. And then you deal for 4 mana, you deal 5 damage and heal 5. What is really good for Warlock, it's a big Scything Soul, kinda. I think that this is a good Spellstone. It's one of the better Spellstones revealed so far, because of it just being a good Spellstone and because it is pretty decent to make work. It's kind of like a Scything Soul, because you will definitely, if it deals 5 damage, you definitely will remove a lot of minions, and if you deal 7 for 4 mana, it's a great card. I think it's a good Spellstone. It's not a card you will run in like the aggressive Warlock decks, but for Control Warlock, it's pretty easy to upgrade, and it just deals so much damage. It deals damage to a minion, so not the face. But yes, I think it's a better Drain Soul. And Drain Soul is already played in every deck. Little hard still to raid with Spellstones, but I see great potential. You have cards like Hellfire that upgrade it. You have cards like Abyssal that upgrade it. And let me show you some more cards that can also upgrade it. With the Vulgar Homunculus. 2 mana, 2/4. Taunt, Battlecry. Deal 2 damage to your hero. Also a demon, guys. So what do we have here? We have a 2-drop with Taunt. We have a 2-drop that is kind of like a Voidwalker. But just a little bit bigger stats. And a really good card, I think. I think this is cards that Warlock really likes. Zoo really likes this. Control Warlock probably likes this too. And every kind of Demon Warlock likes this. So this card has great potential. I am not sure in which archetypes it's gonna be a direct fit. But a 2 mana 2/4, it really reminds me on the Priest card. What was also a 2 mana 2/4 Taunt. That if you had a dragon in your hand. This one is kind of comparable, and I just see instead of the dragon archetype, this is for the demon archetype, and you're just gonna see it play there. You will see it play. The deal 2 damage to your hero, Warlock can play quite well. Warlock could never play well with their life because they didn't have the heal cards, but now with Drain Soul being there, with the new Spellstone maybe revealed, and maybe Zoo doesn't really care at all about it, this card has good potential. So I think it's a really good Warlock card. It's a really good card. It will be seen quite some play. It's a good card. And now I think also one of the craziest cards revealed. I would never expect that 1-drops would get this effect, but it happened. 1 mana 2/1, draw a card, deal 2 damage to your hero. I don't think there has ever been a 1 mana card with a battle cry of draw a card. I never think there has been a 1 mana card that just straight up says draw a card. And that's broken. That is just broken. 1 mana cards with draw mechanic? Wow. Wow. If you compare this card to like a Novice Engineer or a Loot Hoarder, like draw a card is insanely good in Warlock. It's super good in Warlock. Yes, you deal 2 damage to your hero, but it's not a big thing. It's just like a life tap that you do here, but instead you pay 1 mana less and you summon a 1 mana 2/1. And a 1 mana 2/1 is good too, guys. It's pretty good stats for a 1-drop. Remember that Leprechaun was nerfed, for example. Remember that Flame Imp was nerfed because it was too good as a 1-drop, both. And this card is just, it's definitely in the same space, but I think even better. It's an insane card. It's super insane. It's definitely insane in Zoo. Like, this card is super good in Zoo Warlock. Every kind of Zoo deck is gonna run this card. It's an a really good Kobold, and yeah, I'm surprised. I'm really surprised. This card is has a really high power level. Maybe it's not a card that you play in like Control Warlocks because it just doesn't do much as a 1-mana 2/1, but it's such a cheap way of drawing cards. It's incredibly strong, and wow. It's maybe not as flashy because it's a 1-drop, but guys, you're gonna face this card a lot, I promise you. Now up are some neutrals. I probably go a little bit fast over these. 8 mana 4/7 at the end of the turn. Cast a spell from your deck, target chosen randomly. Yeah, hard to review because it's a spell from your deck chosen randomly. I think it is. It has like a small Yogi effect. It's not consistent enough for constructed. It will be sometimes a pick in arena because it's a value card. But yeah, that's really it. You don't really... It's not a consistently strong enough card, and the stats are pretty meh. So good luck with it. 6 mana 4/10 Taunt. Summon a random 2-drop for your opponent. Decent. It's a pretty decent neutral card. You can definitely play it. I think it has potential because you average give your opponent a 2/2. And a 6 mana 4/10 is kind of like it's a really good one in control decks, this one. Maybe in like a heavy control deck, this card is gonna be good enough. It has like, I feel, enough attack to be good enough. Like 4 attack is a nice number. And it's all about the health. Like, it's all about that you summon 10 health. The only problem is, yes, you can get unlucky. You can get a Doomsayer for your opponent. Yes, you can get like a snail and this card is gonna cry. But overall, I think this card is gonna be a pretty good to decent card in a control deck. Maybe in like a heavy taunt deck or in a quest warrior deck. Decks like that, I can see it work. Not insane, but might just hit it at the right point. And the last card that we're gonna reveal for today is the Hoarding Dragon. 4 mana 5/6 Death Rattle, give your opponent 2 coins. It's a dragon card. There have been cards like this before. 4 mana 5/5s, 4 mana 5/6 that are with a little bit of a negative Death Rattle. And it just seems these cards are just never hitting it. A lot of cards for 4 mana just need to be like already stat-wise like this, but you just don't want a negative Death Rattle. I guess you can sometimes pick it from random dragons from the Historian, but I feel that the negative effect of giving your opponent 2 coins is just not what you want to do. It will definitely be a card that's good in arena. Cards like this are always really good in arena, I feel. But I feel in constructed, it's just not hitting it. It doesn't have the power level of some other cards. It doesn't have the late game potential of some other cards. And in the mid game, you just need a little bit better power spike. It's just missing the power spike of it just being really good. And that's my worry. Maybe some Dragon decks can find it out. Maybe some Dragon decks it can just be good enough. Maybe Dragon Priest can do it. We will see. We have some really nice cards that have been revealed this week, guys. I'm really looking forward what will be revealed in the upcoming week, because it will probably be all the cards that we're gonna see, and then we have a really good picture. I will follow it up on more reviews. I hope you liked it, guys. Thank you so much, and let's get excited for the Kobolds.